Well, today I have the tiniest, most minuscule bit of news, a little bit of speculation about the next Mass Effect with a hiring update from BioWare. So let's talk about it. Okay, so right here you see I have the BioWare careers page on here. This is where they post all of their job listings specifically to the studio. It's been pretty quiet lately. They do have a listing that's been up for quite a while. We'll get into all of that, but as pointed out to me last night by someone in my Discord, we have a new listing here under the art, which I don't think was even there before. That goes along with this senior technical artist listing that's been up for a couple months. I did a video about this, but this one is interesting. So let's take a peek at it. It is a senior animator job. When you start digging into the listing, there's a few interesting parts here. The main one being that this talks about this being a third-person action 3C development person. So I know a tiny bit about this because one of the people I knew the best back when I covered The Division was the 3C director or whatever for The Division 1 and 2. And it's an interesting job because it's, you even see it here where it says character, camera, and controls. And you would almost imagine that like those three aspects would be handled by three different people or teams or whatever. And I think they are in a point, but you also need someone to kind of bring that all together. And that's what the 3C person does. Now, this one is interesting because it seems to be that it would, they'd be working closely with the gameplay and narrative teams. So I imagine this would have a lot to do with even like cutscenes and stuff like that, which makes sense. But the interesting thing here is the last listing that art director, let's see here, the tech artist job didn't actually mention Mass Effect directly as the job game, like the game that is being worked on here, where this one specifically says in here, the studio is currently working on future game experiences for the Mass Effect franchise, one of the highest rated video games of all time. That's interesting because the future game experiences, that very well may just be corpo speak for a vague reference to the game that they haven't named yet. We don't know what the next Mass Effect is called. We don't know a lot about it. So maybe it's just a vague posting, or maybe the plan is to make multiple games. You would imagine it is that there's at least some intention, just like there was with, say, like Andromeda. But, we have to see how things play out before those things happen. So, down here it says the senior gameplay animator will report to the animation director. Responsibilities. So it's got stuff in here about like mocap, in-engine tools. One thing that is interesting, it doesn't specify any need for experience with Unreal Engine or any specific engine. I am under the impression that a lot of animation stuff is kind of engine agnostic because it uses tools like third-party tools that aren't necessarily Unreal Engine or Unity or, like in their case, Frostbite or something like that. There's a lot of collaboration talk in here. It does have specifically creating high quality gameplay animations. So this is probably kind of a I'm sure there's a team under this position, but it's likely also expected to do work themselves. So yeah, has the mentor junior animators provide feedback. Qualifications, this is pretty standard from what I've seen, and with all of their postings. 5 years of experience. It says a senior animator job with at least one shipped AAA title. I think that's really interesting because it's so common nowadays that you could have someone who absolutely worked for 5 years on a AAA level game that just never released, or like with a game like Concord from PlayStation that did release and was shut down 10 days later. So I'm kind of curious to how strict that is, because you could easily have people, say even people that went to like Humanoid Origin, the studio that Casey Hudson started from BioWare. A lot of the people were from there, who could have gone over there and worked for 5 years on the game doing gameplay animation, only for that studio to shut down and they don't have a ship title, right? So I'm kind of curious how that plays out. And there's nothing else super interesting here. This is, I believe, one of the roles that is going to be a hybrid posting where you will need to move there, and they will help pay for that, and that you'll also be able to work from home while you're there, which is kind of the strategy that EA seems to be moving to. Just a quick video. I don't think this is anything big to get on some big 30-minute tangent about. I'm wondering if maybe we'll see kind of a smattering of new hiring listings coming up. I've predicted for a while that we would probably need to see some kind of push for hiring before we would see them do a full production announcement. I have to imagine that after all the layoffs and then moving people to other teams, that I don't know if their team is big enough to go into full production in its current state. Maybe it can. I was under the impression about a year ago that their team was around 500, 4 to 500. And if that's halved, that still is a studio that can probably begin full production and then fill in the gaps as they need to, which maybe that's what they're doing now. I don't know. I've also been waiting to see listings that would be applicable to people who were moved off the studio. If you remember the news about how a bunch of BioWare employees got put temporarily with other studios like Motive and DICE to help them work on their games. And then a few months ago, Gary McKay posted a blog on the BioWare page of like, oh, by the way, they're all there permanently now. It's part of our restructuring for better future growth, or whatever corpo speak he used in that. I am under the impression all those people who were moved, that there was some suggestion that they'd be able to come back to work on Mass Effect when full production was ready. I'm also under the impression to do that, they would have to apply for an open position. It wouldn't just be a, hey, will you come back? Now, I don't know how these things really work. Maybe they can do that. I forget how the laws work and stuff with publicly posted open positions, so that, there's an equal shot of anyone getting it. We'll see. But I think if we start seeing developers who were at BioWare saying that they're back, and we start seeing more hiring listings, that would suggest to me an impending full production announcement for the next Mass Effect. I thought maybe we would get that by now in 2025. I'm now thinking that the earliest we could get that is probably in 7 Day as a big blowout announcement. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I have no clue. So interesting stuff, though. I enjoy following this stuff. If you do as well, consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about Mass Effect, BioWare, all gaming stuff. Hit the like button if you want more people to see this video. I would really appreciate that. If you want to really support what I'm doing here, get videos a little bit early, as well as some other perks, consider becoming a YouTube member. Check out all of my other content and ways to support at the links in the description of the video. That is all I have for this one. So until next time.